Welcome to the Solid Waste and Recycling Committee meeting. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Everybody please rise. Ready? Begin. The Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Note that both directors are here. Okay. Do you want to start with the first motion?
Sure.
Agenda. Is there any changes?
No changes.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
And I'll second that. Anybody for public comment?
We have Peter Barnes on Zoom and no one else in person.
No comment here.
Okay. I looked over the minutes and I'll approve them with a motion.
And I'll second that.
Okay, review of solid waste events. What do we have going on?
So our next solid waste event coming up is our community cleanup and free tire day on September 9th. It's 8 a.m. to noon. It's at the CR&R yard on your way to the transfer station. This is for residents only. They can bring trash and yard waste, up to 9 tires, recyclables. Just a reminder, no hazardous waste or e-waste. And if there's any questions, you can call the district and they can clarify. And then that's kind of it for solid waste events. We are working in coordination with water conservation to work with the master gardeners for their class in October to combine like a free tree giveaway as well as talking about composting and kind of the tie-in with the food waste. So once we have all of those details finalized, it'll go out in the bills and be posted everywhere. And then that'll be when we develop our free composter.
Okay.
So the barrel composter thing. So if you attend that class, you'll be eligible to get the free composter. And if somebody's not available at that class, we'll do another one in the future as well. But just keep the lookout for that in October.
Well, hopefully we'll have good attendance with that. Okay. Do you have any questions about it?
No questions?
Anybody from the public have any questions about it? I'm guessing.
No.
Okay. Update of uniform collection. How are we doing with things?
So we have a little over 1,800, actually almost 1,900 applications that have been turned in so far. So making progress. We'll be at that corner mark soon. And it's basically staying the same. It's 60-40, so 60% CR&R, 40% haulers. CR&R is overwhelmed right now with the entry and with the service changes. So we're saying now 3 to 4 weeks for changes to your count or for new service rollout, things like that. So we appreciate everybody's patience. If you have an urgent matter, just call us and we'll move you up to the top of the list. We are prioritizing downgrading services first, so getting rid of the bins and replacing them with barrels if that's what people choose.
So we'll lower their costs right off the bat as quickly as we can.
Yep,
I like
that's
that.
correct. The transfer station continues to still commingle everything, so that's been very frustrating. So we've been telling everybody that they need to source separate before they go there, as the county told us we needed to do, and it's still not being separated at the transfer station.
No update from the county on that?
No
at all?
update. It's honestly, it's contract negotiations with Athens. So I'll reach out to them at the end of the week and see if they have any progress on that, but hopefully it's soon. And Brandon, did you have anything on implementation?
Yeah, pretty much exactly what you said. We got like a 3-week lead time right now on any change of services, so we're doing the best we can. We got some more staff coming in to kind of speed up the process. for applications for new services, change of service, stuff like that. So along with that, we're also continuing the rollout of everybody getting the blue and green barrels, right? So that's simultaneously working. But yeah, we're working through it, and we're going to decrease that wait time within the next couple weeks.
Are we doing lid swaps on some of them, where you're just switching out the lid?
Yeah, only the blue. Yeah.
Only the blue, so
Yeah,
you're putting some to a
we've got
blue
all
lid.
those lids in, so when I say
Okay.
the rollout, that includes just swapping out the blue lid and then
And
dropping
putting one
off a
new
green
card
can,
out.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't have any questions about the rollout, do you?
No questions
Okay.
either.
And
Does-
then the billing error, I believe a
that's-
letter was sent out regarding the 800 or so. So they're just aware of what happened. If they didn't notice by now, then call us.
And are we still getting calls from people outside the district that,
No,
Those
those have,
stopped.
yeah, those have tapered off, so.
good?
I
So
don't,
they're aware that you're not tied to us?
right, yeah, the next time CR&R does a mailing, I'm sure it's just gonna be within our boundaries. And of course, when we do our mailings,
100%.
it's just to our customers or to Sheep Creek customers.
Well, there was a lot of moving pieces that had to lock in, and I figured there would be some overlap that would happen.
Yeah, so everybody should be receiving that letter that was incorrectly billed. It's already fixed, but they're just going to be receiving that letter
Acknowledging what
within a
happened.
week or, yeah.
Okay. Peter, do you have any questions about this part?
Yeah, it's probably for Brandon. I am curious if people have been downgrading from dumpsters to bins with the new rates.
Oh, yeah. A lot of people are. A lot of people are also understanding, too, that they'll come in and say, well, I've got a bin, I've had a bin for years, and I put everything in there, I don't need the blue and the green. As soon as we explain what the blue and the green's for, they understand, well, it's probably easier to just go with 3 blues and 1 green. Yeah, I'm shocked. It's almost been everybody who we've talked to personally face-to-face ends up doing that way. And it's a lot cheaper, too, right? You go with the 3-barrel service, 4-barrel service, an extra $7 and a penny a month, and you get another barrel of whatever kind you want. And that goes on your account. But yeah, a lot of people are either going from bins to the barrels and saying, well, you know, what do I need it for? And then once we explain it, they completely understand it, and then they go with the extra barrels of organics or recycle.
And I met with the High Desert Horsemen's Association last week. Brandon was there as well, and kind of talked about organics in terms of manure and all the different articles that have to be disposed of related to keeping livestock. So we went over how they can deal with medication, sharps, contact the county essentially, or do a drop-off location, rendering for dead bodies. And then the manure. So basically going over that, hey, you guys can't just put this in your dumpster come January when we start collecting everything separately. And so they're kind of realizing, you know, maybe I can just use a few extra green barrels instead, or one lady might actually need a green organics dumpster instead because you can't put it in the trash. So it went well. I think they
Sorting out all the
understood.
pieces in that area, too.
Yeah.
So any additional questions, Peter?
Well, yeah, so I'm not, when we say barrels, bins, and dumpsters, what's the difference? What are we talking about there?
Barrel and cart mean the same thing. So the push carts are barrels. And then bin and dumpster, we use those interchangeably. So the proper
Okay.
term is bin and the proper term is cart, but everybody refers to them differently.
Okay, yeah, I think a lot of people call their barrels bins, so. The other question I had, just a quick follow-up to what you said, Kim. What are the details on dumping dead bodies?
So if it's if it's 50 pounds or less, you can put it in the trash. So like you have a bunch of chickens that died or small pig or something, it can go in the trash. Ideally, you would call a rendering service for anything larger than that. So it could be put to beneficial use because they turn that into all sorts of different materials. And we do have information on that on our website. We do know people bury their animals out here. We're not in charge of land use, but I am aware that you're not supposed to bury dead horses and cows and stuff, but I guess that happens. You're supposed to call a rendering service. So that is it. So if you have any dead bodies, Peter, of the animal kind, and you'll dispose of it that way. And if you have any questions, you can always call the district office.
Okay, yeah, 'cause I have goats and one of them is sick and I've been thinking about it, but I don't,
Yeah,
hoping she doesn't die. But yeah,
how much does
rendering,
it
okay.
weigh?
Oh, 120 pounds.
Yeah, rendering service. So if you go to our website, there's a livestock owners tab, like on the right-hand
Okay.
side. If you click on that, it'll pop up the information on the rendering service.
Okay, great. Thank you. I think I'm good.
Okay, thank you, Peter. You brought some good questions. Thank you. Okay, so are you good with that topic?
I'm good with all that.
Okay, so SB 1383 and recycling requirements. Oh, the big joy that's been on our table.
Yeah, so a couple weeks ago, our Cow Recycle rep came out, the one that allegedly is just here to assist us, not enforce, but I don't believe that they don't talk to each other. So we treat it like he's an enforcement officer. And so he looked around our office. He really liked how we're doing our source separating there and dealing with our food waste in our office. We took him up into the farther reaches of the district just to show him, how we're dealing with quote unquote curbside collection. And he was shocked that the trash trucks go up there. I think we also scared poor Barbara from CR&R. Yeah. So Barbara with CR&R,
She freaked out.
she mainly helps with compliance down in Riverside County and with cities, not with a jurisdiction like ours. And so because of our unique needs, she's been assigned to me, and she's very, very knowledgeable. And when she first spoke with me, she says, "Oh, no, it'll be fine. I'll bring my Prius up and we'll just go do some lid flips." And I thought, well, that'll be fun, maybe for part of the community. And so then when we took her up in the truck and she could see, first of all, from that perspective way up there, how big our district is. And then she saw even the dirt roads just down around here, the condition of that. And then, of course, the fun roads like up on Trinity and all those areas. She realized that probably the Prius isn't going to work, and she'll have to have a 4x4. So it's just interesting, and it was nice to give the state that perspective that we all don't live in cities and have curb and gutter and things. And so he also met with one of our constituents, who was concerned about his elderly parents and having to, now roll 3 carts out pretty far to the main road. And then he wanted to see our downtown district, which only took about 2 minutes. So that went well. And then our compliance order, we've checked off another box by adopting our revised ordinance at the last board meeting. So, because that provision for the self-haul. And then we're just working on our annual electronic report. We are granted an extension until August 24th, because as I predicted, if I were to flow chart this out, it would make your head spin. But essentially, there's all of these different reporting burdens. So we don't just report everything to Cow Recycle. Some of it still gets reported to the county. And so we've had to spend some time working with the county on exactly what data that they still need from us, because they're still responsible for the old organics recycling provisions for commercial, but not for the SB 1383 one. So it's like, what data overlaps there? So it's been interesting. And then, of course, now the school district, they have their very own reporting burden to the state. So they have to report stuff to us and stuff to the state. So it's a mess working through all of that.
Well, the schools have a whole other level of federal, added to the federal food program rules too.
Yeah, and the state doesn't understand that. I mean, they are like contractually obligated to dispose of any of the food that they receive from the feds in a certain way. So if it doesn't go to a low income assistance child, it's supposed to be destroyed. So how do you destroy all of these individually packaged things without hiring an army of people? Yeah, it's a mess. So that's for them to figure out and, explain federal versus state law with the state. Because they are responsible for their own SB 1383 compliance. Thankfully, we're not.
I'm happy we don't have to jump in the middle of that.
Yeah, I don't need to go out and inspect their bins, their food waste bins, but we are helping them. We're not leaving them hanging. So I'm just kind of explaining the nuts and bolts of what they should be keeping track of. So when they have to do their electronic report, they're able to.
Okay, I'm good with the information. How about you?
That was a good explanation
Yeah,
of
really
what's
filled in
going on and
spots.
where we're at, yes.
Does anybody here else have questions like Peter? Where we're at
I
with
do
this?
have one question.
Oh, awesome.
So this is for Kim, and this is related to the receipts that we get at the transfer station.
Yeah, they're terrible, aren't they?
Now, they're really bad. So I'm just wondering how it's going to work if you're getting a bunch of faded receipts that don't show the information on it.
So I'm going to imagine the county's going to have to upgrade their receipt printer because they're requiring their residents, so in their jurisdictions, to keep receipts. And so if the receipts aren't adequate for them, I would hope that they would upgrade the system. If you end up getting receipts and they're faded, and let's say you're the one that's selected for an account audit, you're just going to say, here's my receipts, they're faded, and I'm just going to believe you that you went there. Alternatively, and it might be easier for your own record keeping, just take a picture of it and store it in a folder in your photos. Because then you could just send them on my way if you are one of the chosen few to provide proof that you self-hauled.
Okay.
I just had something I thought of too. Instead of, I've been calling it roadside to people so they get the idea it's on the side of the road versus calling it curbside because we don't have very many curbs.
Yeah.
So I've gotten a text when people ask, I go, well, they go curbside. I go, but think more roadside.
Yeah, we just say, along your, at the edge of your property, basically, near the road, stuff like that. With the state, I do like to keep using curbside because I just like for them to realize that that's a misnomer for what they're making us do. Because again, I did try to use semantics to get out of this. Well, we don't have curbs, so we don't have to do it.
It's so funny because I was reading that in a contract today somewhere else, and it was talking about when, place cans on curb, and I'm like, what curb? Like it's even in the contracts.
Yeah.
Not for here, it's for somewhere else. And I was
When we redid the ordinance, we put curb or what I can't remember the word we used. Similar, essentially, equivalent. That's what we use. Curbside or equivalent. So, because we don't have curbs.
It's a bit of an oddity, but we don't have curbs.
And then with our outreach, we just remailed all of the Sheep Creek customers the application, and then we're just going to continue to put them in our monthly bill. Brandon and I have met and have put together a pretty comprehensive rollout timeline, and then we're just working on getting the flyers and the letters and everything drafted, because at some point the non-responders are going to be given service whether they want it or not. So we're just hoping everybody that wants to self-haul declares that, and we don't have to give anybody that doesn't want collection service like the county did.
End up sticking with a bill they're not knowing is coming, basically.
Yeah, they only gave them a month to do their exemption form,
Oh.
and then if they didn't have it in, they were given the service.
Oh, that's an ouch for a lot of
Which,
people.
operationally speaking, I can see the benefit of why they did that, but for our community, I think that would be a hard sell.
If getting the news, the information out, even in 6 months is hard, let alone a month.
Yeah, and if you think about it, we're almost a quarter of the way there with our residents responding, without being threatening or anything like that. So we'll get there.
Okay, I'm good with the information on 1383.
Yep.
Yours will?
Great
Okay.
information, yep.
Staff reports besides all the information you've already given us.
So I did put in the quarterly data information, which this will go to the board for acceptance. Brandon is working on modifying this report. You'll notice it looks different from prior quarterly reports. There's still some data that I'm gonna have him add back in there, regarding the schools, because I didn't see that. And then, of course, we're still needing to separate out the AB 341 information for reporting. But I think this will be better because we don't have, 4 pages of irrelevant data anymore.
Yeah, so we wanted to make it a little bit easier for everybody and just to kind of get straight to the information that we needed. So we're gonna put the schools back in there, like Kim said. There's some formulas in there too that kind of messed up, like the total monthly diversion recycling under residential, that's incorrect. It's the total monthly organics diversion is actually gonna be the recycle diversion. So little things like that that we're gonna fix, then get that sent back over to Kim. But we'll adjust that and fix that. But I think the cool part is watching the residential accounts come back up from where they were. We were watching a drop, and now we're back up to 5211, and I think I checked yesterday, we're almost at 5300. So we're getting there
Yeah, I
quick.
think we're at 5338 based on what you reported to me for
Yeah.
July.
So we're up there. It's going in the right direction. It's great.
That's a nice increase, I
So
like.
when I started here over 10 years ago, we had just under 3,000 collection customers, but we have not had a huge boom in population. And I'm going to take credit for getting these numbers up here because of the insane amount of outreach we've done over 10 years. Like, hey, did you know that there's trash services in the community? People are like, no, I didn't. And they would sign up. And so the goal was knowing that all of this stuff eventually was going to snowball, and we were going to have at some point no choice but to mandate some sort of service to make it as least impactful as possible. And so I feel like we were able to do that. Well, that person was driving very fast. Sorry, very distracted. It's like, zoom. Yeah, and so if you look at the monthly report for July, you'll see that we have the school accounts on there. So you can see that there's commercial accounts, 92, and then the school account. And then you'll start seeing the organics pop on there next month for commercial.
For commercial, right.
Residential, we're not going to be collecting separately until January. And we just have our 2 commercial self-haulers for recycling. The only thing that they're allowed to self-haul are recycling or organics. They still have to have trash service. And then we've been processing organics exemptions for commercial because we have some businesses that they literally have no organic material, and so it doesn't make sense to collect anything from them. And that's kind of it. If there's any questions on the report, let me know. I am having a meeting with Kiwanis next week with their group. They asked me to come out and talk trash, so gonna do that.
I'm happy to see the numbers going up. It really is. It's being on the committee, I've been up most of the last 4 years, I think it is.
Yeah, we were low 4,000s
Yeah.
a few years ago.
And to see it come up and more people seeing that it's a service. My mom lived here in the 90s and it wasn't a service. And when I moved here and she found out, she was like, that's a heaven for here.
I think like as gas prices go up and as long as we're able to keep the service affordable, we're going to continue to see those numbers increase. So
I think even without it, the convenience of it and not having to worry about making the trip will be a choice for people too.
right.
And the fact that the carts end up, you can have enough to pick up with the carts versus the full dumpster bin.
Right.
I think we'll see a lot more of that option. And people think, oh, I'll only need a dumpster. And think
Yeah,
it's something
like
else.
right now, it's 5 to 10 minutes of customer service time per customer, just because we're having to get into the detail, like Brandon was saying, about the trash bins, dumpsters. Because they're like, oh, I'm just gonna put it all in my dumpster. It's like, well, let's talk about what really can go in there. And maybe you don't need a dumpster. Maybe what you need is couple extra recycling carts, because most of the stuff is recyclable. And so just getting through all of that, explaining it, and then, realizing they could save some money, takes some time. And corporate down at CR&R, they run off of time-based interactions, and they're kind of rated on that in their departments. And I'm like, you need to throw that out the window for our customers. We will spend the time that we need with them to explain all of this. So that's the backlog.
Well, and that time will come down over time.
Well, which we
for them
did
as well.
too, like Kim's talking about, we don't need to be graded on how long we're on the phone with somebody. Somebody needs to be explained, they're gonna get explained, so, we got taken off of that. We're kind of like our own satellite whole company up here now. And then, I think something kind of important to remember too is the fact that the call volume has exploded, the participation has exploded. We're seeing bigger wait times, we're seeing all this stuff, but it just means more people are signing up for service too, and more people are involved, and more people want to be involved. So it's a good thing too,
And on our website data, solid waste never really used to make any type of statistical report. Now we're number 3 on page views.
Oh, wow.
So, and interesting to see my little sorting widget, that's up there too. So it's in the top 20.
People keep testing that widget to see what they can find, and I have yet to hear of any.
That thing's very well populated now. So like there's all sorts of strange things that are in there.
You never thought would be it.
And if I don't know, I call Brandon, and if he doesn't know, he calls the disposal site.
Well, for the call centers, I used to do call center work, and the time they really get, normal call centers, it's about getting them moved on so you get on the next call. And I understand why they're that way, but when you're rolling out something new, you have to give the extra time.
Oh, yeah, we can't do it, yeah.
You'll see on there, like if you were to type in horse placenta, that's in there because
Oh.
somebody asked me about that.
Oh, wow.
I'm just
one is
like, well,
definitely
that's
odd.
interesting. How much does it weigh?
Yeah, right. Heavier than we thought, huh?
Yeah.
Probably more than human birth?
Yeah, I would hope so. I think.
Oh,
it's-
wow.
Yeah, all these things. So then if I don't know, and if it's like agriculture related, we have our contacts out in the community now. So call and figure it out.
Yeah, good job getting all the numbers up and going through everything you went through to get here. I know it's been a battle. Cal Recycle's a battle, or a unique community is a battle, so good job with all that, both of you.
Yeah, so our next step is, and I'll be bringing a proposal to, I think hopefully the next meeting, September, to do the rate analysis. So I'm gonna, actually our water rate consultant, because of all of this stuff from the state now, and there's just not anybody really out there doing it. He started doing the cost of service analysis for solid waste. And he actually, he subcontracts some of the regulatory stuff with David Davis, who did our public information workshops, who's familiar with our community. So I thought that was kind of interesting. He's like, oh yeah, I'll sub it out to a guy down in Temecula. I'm like, oh, who? And I'm like, oh, he already knows our community. So now it's just because it's supposed to be mutually agreed upon with CR&R, it's just I'm gonna have to talk with them to make sure that they'll agree to use our financial analyst and David Davis, who does these type of municipal reviews all over the state.
Good.
So we want to be ready and have already gone through the rate battle well ahead of April when CR&R is supposed to present us with rates, because we know that we're going to have to do a 218.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the more people that sign up, the better for the rates, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Yes.
Economies of scale is what we
Yes.
say. If they're not skipping houses, it's just helping alleviate the cost burden.
It displaces or across more people.
Yeah, and then again, we're still negotiating with the county on why can't we take all of our waste there? We did now, right? We did before. Why does it have to go to Burtech in Victorville?
Yeah.
Because if we are going to continue to have to do that, obviously we're going to have to integrate a disposal component. So just there's some negotiations that we have to have done, and we might enlist our committee members' help with some of these conversations with the county on
So-
what we're thinking.
Why won't the county let us take all the waste there? What's their reason for that?
They have not been able to deliver an answer. So I'm gonna set a meeting.
Is there a certain type of waste they don't want, or just a
They only
certain
want
tonnage?
trash.
Trash.
They said we can't take our recycling and organics there, but we've been taking them there.
Yeah.
And the first iteration that somebody at the county told me was, well, we can't handle all the extra waste. We're like, there is no extra waste. It's just separated. We haven't had a mass boom in population. We're not having an explosion in growth of collection customers. I mean, we have a few hundred extra, but it's marginal for what that transfer station could handle. And then the other thing is, if we can negotiate a good rate to offload our organics with Circle Green once they're completely permitted and operational. So all of these things we have to work on before we can finally come up with a cost of service for our customers. And the goal is as little change as possible, because, you know, we want people to have trash service and we don't want it to adversely impact people out here when we're requiring them to have service.
It's odd that they don't realize that they had the thought that it was something more, when all you're doing is what was already there is just being separated.
Yeah. I quickly explained that one, and they haven't said anything about that. I do need to set up a meeting with people in charge to talk about why can't we take all 3 waste streams there. At the very least, trash and recycling. I get organics. Maybe they're just not equipped to take that. But I don't know why they can't process recycling there.
Well,
That doesn't make sense.
recycling isn't really gross at all. It has no, it's stuff that can sit.
Well, and here's the thing, the self-haulers are still taking it there. So
True.
why can't CR&R? So they're gonna be set up and equipped to handle the 3 separate waste streams for self-haulers, which the county service areas have self-haulers. Why can't CR&R continue to take all of the residential waste there when our customers are paying for that residential waste disposal component on their property taxes?
Yeah,
It's a
because
really
we pay
legitimate
the
question.
same amount that the county people pay.
Correct.
It's exactly the same.
Yeah, it's exactly the same. So unless, the only thing I can think of is maybe they're anticipating a change in the dump card, like removing it at some point in the future, which would explain why I don't, but even then it doesn't, because if they're still gonna have to have 3 piles there for self-haulers,
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
yeah, no matter how I think about it, it doesn't make sense. So I might enlist some help from you guys in
More than
helping them understand what we're trying to explain to them.
Let me know any dates, and if I'm available,
Yeah.
I'll be there.
Which only hurts them too, because the jurisdiction that they are in charge of, that we also service, we're having to do the same thing. We can't take it to their own facility. We're having to take it to somewhere else for $113 a ton for organics and $96 a ton for recycle, which makes no sense to me at all. I don't know why they're doing that.
Yeah, and we just want to make sure we don't get into trouble for double billing, essentially. Like somebody's already, I mean, the state's famous for it, you know, tax and fee for the same thing, but we don't want to necessarily be like the state in that regard. So,
I'd rather not. I'd rather be straightforward and
yeah,
all of it up front.
that's all I have in staff report. If there's anything else.
I don't have any questions. How about Peter?
Number one, I'm happy to hear Mr. Davis didn't get scared away by those meetings. Surprised, maybe even. So, these are less questions. I have a couple of thoughts. So one, when this was all going down, I did do a little research into the county, and they had our transfer station and a couple of the other smaller ones designated as not capable of handling the recycled and organic materials. And I'm thinking that it's got to be a monetary thing, like they have to do some sort of licensing or there are regulations they have to follow. It has to be a certain size or something that allows it. I had just noticed and I was like, this could be bad. I might be self-hauling somewhere other than the Phelan transfer station. That would be bad news. That's all.
Yeah, they have the regulatory requirements, you know, for their facility and how they're permitted, but also their operational agreement with Athens. So they told me the holdup right now at this transfer facility is strictly the Athens agreement. They never mentioned it having to do with the size of the facility or the permit or anything like that.
Well, hopefully the communication can happen, or that they've sorted out their end, and we can have our stuff there, because it'd be even just the transportation cost besides the cost of getting it there, the gas and the fuel of getting it to the other locations.
That's right.
Adds to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's double cost to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
You want to get away from that.
Well, I'll be available most of the time for that, I believe.
Sure.
Dr. Hayes will be as well. And I'm sure even if we needed both of us, we'd both be able to speak up when need be. Okay, on to review of action items.
So we changed our meeting date and time, obviously, and so the action item was to update the calendars, which has been done.
And I don't think we have any current.
Nothing
Nope.
current.
Okay, next agenda will be September 20th. I think it'll be set pretty much the same.
Yeah, we'll have hopefully the proposal for the cost of service analysis that we need to conduct ahead of setting new rates.
Okay. Well, thank you all. Thank you, Peter, for attending. And we'll adjourn at 3:05.